Invest in daughters, sisters, and wives. They're gonna change our lives. In women, in girls. They'll make a better world. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. And now here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. As you know, we are all about funding women. And today we have on a special guest. She is the president of the Harvard Alumni Association and a real trailblazer herself. Not only is she a serial founder, but she's also a strategist and an investor herself. Please welcome to the show, Vanessa Liu. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me.
You know, looking at you, I can't believe you've been in this industry over 20 years and the miraculous things you've done as far as building up, selling businesses, helping so many women and diverse entrepreneurs get funding. And we're going to talk all about that because you are a major player in this space, and I'm super excited about your new SilverLife fund that's going to really impact aging in place. Big thing you're tackling there.
I'm super excited to share.
Yes, I'm super excited. And did I say it right? The name of the fund?
Yes, you did. SilverLife.
Okay, good, good. Great name too.
Thank you.
So, you were like the vice president of a company where you're managing, like this is $1 billion company, and you were managing an accelerator program that funded and helped like 85 women driven or diversity driven entrepreneurs to have successful businesses. I want to start with that because that's an exciting place to start. And that was with SAP, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I got recruited by SAP in early 2018 when they were trying to put a stamp and make their accelerator program distinctive. And they also saw early on that the funding landscape was really lopsided for women and diverse entrepreneurs. And so I was really lucky to get recruited so that I can actually start the accelerator in New York and eventually run what we were doing in North America. I think the stats are familiar to you and familiar to many of your listeners. You know, only a fraction of VC dollars goes towards women and people of color. And it's not because the pipeline isn't there. It's not because the business ideas are not there. It's because the access to the networks is not there. So that was what we were trying to correct. So SAP is the largest creator of business software, so back office software for any of the large companies that you think of. So it's over $100 billion in market cap. We have over 400,000 customers. And if you could think about finding startups that are, they have a product that is really solving point solutions. And if we can bring that into the SAP platform and integrate with them and go to market with them, that can provide companies that access to revenue and the access to clients. So that was what we were doing. So I was so lucky to run 12 programs in New York and San Francisco and worked with 87 companies, 80% of which were founded by women and people of color. So we had a mandate where at least 40% of the companies had to be fulfilling that criteria, but we actually doubled that number because we found so many great companies. And these are all in enterprise spaces.
I love that. Can you mention one or two that you guys helped to accelerate and fund? I'd love to know that.
Yes, absolutely. So one company that I've been very close to is a company called Narrative. And so Narrative without the E, they're based out of New York. The founder, her name is Lee Chen. And so she realized early on in her, just like throughout the course of the work that she did before founding this company, that you can monetize these links on websites, like if you are a publisher and like a New York Times or New York Magazine, and you're doing a roundup of, say, the top 10 pillowcases or sheets that you should buy, those links always go to a retailer. And so they created a way to bid on those links, where retailers can bid on those links to say, like, well, if you're pointing to that particular, sheet set, Bed Bath and Beyond wants to be able to pay for more of that. Usually that type of bidding process only happens when you're doing Google search ads, or Amazon buys up everything. Right. And so they were really democratizing the way for retailers to be able to compete against Amazon and other e-commerce juggernauts.
I love that. I'm going to remember that narrative without an E, because I want to recommend that to retailers that could use that competitive edge. I have some in my circle. I love that. Thanks for telling us about it.
Of course.
And you were going to say, and then there's another one?
Yes, there's another one that I've worked with. And so the name of the company is Goodr. So Goodr, based out of Atlanta. Fantastic entrepreneur. Jasmine Crowe is the founder and CEO. So she realized early on that people go hungry, but you don't need to. It's not, it's actually a logistics problem. That's how she saw it. And she realized that there is surplus food everywhere, if you think about it. So if you go to back in the days when people used to eat at their offices, and if you are with a large company, at the end of the day, there's all this food that's uneaten. Right. Where does it go? It gets thrown away. Or if you go to a stadium and you're doing a live event, where does the food go at the end of the day? It goes into landfills.
Or sometimes film shoot in Hollywood here, we would say a film shoot, it goes to waste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it goes to waste. But this food can be perfectly good, and you can direct it elsewhere. So instead of going to landfills, her service provides for that food to be rerouted to communities in need. So companies actually pay her like a waste removal service, and then she diverts it into the community.
That sounds like a nonprofit, but she's a socially conscious for-profit business, right?
That's exactly right. So she charges the companies so that because they need to get rid of waste. So just like you pay a waste removal service, they're paying Goodr the revenue so that they can help them manage that. And now, during the course of their pandemic, she's also gotten a lot of government contracts to distribute food to communities. And so this is a real business. It's not a nonprofit, which I love because it really marries the social impact element with a big business problem.
And, I love that you brought this one up because, first of all, every woman thinks they have to have a nonprofit if they're doing good. Yes, and I love this woman's business acumen that she made this a for-profit business while doing good. And I think more women tend to do that kind of business. These businesses I'm hearing about that are like helping the environment, but they're monetizing it, tend to be coming from women, which this is the conversation you and I are having today. This is why more women need to get funded. They have so many groundbreaking ideas that are being left on the table. If they don't get the funding, none of these things will come to light, like this Goodr that you're talking about.
I totally agree with that. There are so many gems of ideas, and it's about being able to uncover them. And I think about Jasmine, and she talks about her story all the time. She talks about how for her, she realized the extent of just like, how people around her, close people around her, were going hungry because of, like a personal situation in their lives. And that really touched her. And it also made her, like, created this fire in her that, wait a second. And we see people are hungry, and then you see there's so much surplus. There has to be something that addresses this. Like, that type of perspective, that's what you look for in any entrepreneur. Like, that was something we always spoke about at SAPIO. We are not looking for entrepreneurs who just only are women, or only because they're people of color do we fund them. They are running distinctive businesses, and also they happen to be women or people of color. But first and foremost, they are running incredible businesses. And you know what? A lot of the VCs don't get a chance to meet these types of founders because they don't have those types of networks. They're only looking for people who are like them.
Right. Now, before you were doing this accelerator and helping fund these businesses through SAP, you already had very successful businesses. Just so our listeners know, what is your background before you stepped into this billion-dollar company that you're helping these founders? And thank goodness at that company, they had a woman like you making decisions about who was going to be in that accelerator, which then gave an opportunity for women and people of color to be in that program, because that is one of the biggest flaws in the whole system is there's not enough female decision makers at the venture capital groups. So very important that they placed you in that position. But what was your background leading up to doing that job?
So I started off my career at McKinsey and Company, the management consulting firm. And I was not the type of person who read the business section of the newspaper when I was growing up, nor when I was in college. It was only because I started thinking about how I wanted to have impact on people's lives. And I realized that economic development could be that vehicle. And I spent 9.5 years at McKinsey, part of the media practice, and working with our various media clients, like who were magazine publishers, newspaper publishers, content broadcasters, come up with their new plans for digital businesses. So this was during the first .com era. And I realized from there that I actually wanted to be the one that not only came up with the ideas for the businesses and started them, but I wanted to be the one that ran them. So I left McKinsey and teamed up with a business partner, and we launched a venture studio. So the idea was that we would come up with our own ideas of businesses, and we had an investor base that trusted us. And we launched 2 businesses from that. So the first business is called Inside Hook. It is a daily lifestyle publication for men 30 to 55. It's still going strong. We sold that business. And the second business we founded is called Fivo, which is a group commerce solution. And right now it's powering the group ticketing for at least 80% of the sports teams here in the US. And I was the CEO of both businesses while we founded them, and then through the growth phase before we found the longer term CEOs. So being in the trenches and seeing firsthand just how hard it is to be a founder. And that's when I had so many women and people of color actually coming to me. They thought that we would also make outside investments in our venture studio. It wasn't something that we did, but I got to meet incredible founders. And as a result of that, I just felt that I needed to have my hand where I can impact more people. And so that's where I decided to pivot and spend more time on the investing side and working with women and underrepresented minority founders.
Well, I don't want to go without saying that you graduated magna cum laude at Harvard, with a psychology degree. And I can see why, when you have those kind of credentials that someone would invest in you. I am so glad that you're then taking that success and making it possible for people who maybe didn't have that opportunity to attend a university like that. But now that you're the president of the Alumni Association, I gather with your business acumen that you've been so great about helping others to accelerate, women and people of color, that you're probably rallying the troops of the Harvard alumni to get behind these founders. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. So we have over 400,000 alumni at Harvard. And if anything, my big theme for my presidency is creating a one Harvard that is truly diverse and truly embraces people from all backgrounds where you feel like you belong. And we have many shared interest groups. And so alumni, they come together around a shared interest. There's this one group, for instance, that's called Harvard Alumni Entrepreneurs. And they have been doing quite a lot of work to back Harvard alumni entrepreneurs. And with also a big focus around let's help the women founders. Let's help the people who are minority founders. And so that's something that we've been, I should say we, as in Harvard, have been doing quite a lot of work around, something that like our alumni community is very proud of.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. So now your big new endeavor, Silver Life Fund. Let's talk about what that's about, because when you and I spoke about aging in place, because soon this will be affecting me and my colleagues. And I
Yes.
was wondering why someone at your age was interested in that, and how you were explaining to me how really the software technology world has kind of ignored that sector, and that's why you want to put a focus on it. But at your age, I was so curious why it was of interest to you. And you were explaining to me that at your age, you're in what you called the sandwich generation, which means you have kids and you have aging parents, and you all have that to contend with. And thus you're looking for solutions to that, right?
That's exactly right. So I've actually been very interested in aging for a long time. When I was in college, I was doing Alzheimer's research, and I also volunteered in a nursing home. And I saw firsthand just how heartbreaking it is, just to see how lonely some residents were in that facility. And it made me think. It really just woke something in me. I was just thinking, I never ever want to be in that type of situation, nor would I want to put my loved ones in that type of situation where they are alone.
Right.
And a business that we actually wanted to found at Trigger Media, the venture studio that I was before, was a media property focused on baby boomers. So I was already looking into it back then.
Yeah.
But now just, and maybe it's because I've always thought about where I can have the most impact. And having spent the last few years helping women, helping people of color, I started realizing that ageism is it's almost like the most accepted form of discrimination in our society.
Yeah.
If you think about how in most workplaces you can escort people and show them the door at a specific age by giving them an enticing package.
And you know what's so crazy about that is I know so many people in their 80s and 90s who are smart and wise and thriving. So,
yes.
Back to your conversation, I just had to interject that.
Oh yes. Like there's actually research that, people who at 80, their cognitive just their cognitive faculties are just as sharp as when they were in their 20s.
Right.
And one of my mentors and advisors, her name is Linda Fain Levinson. She was the first woman partner elected at McKinsey. She still sits on boards. She is at the top of her game. And she happens to be older, but that is what I want people to see in our society, because I feel like the last few decades, the notion of, oh, once you get older, why don't you go retire and play golf and travel?
Yeah.
People don't want to do that anymore, number one. Number two, many people can't afford to do that anymore either.
Right.
Because if you are living to in your 90s or even 100, which is becoming more commonplace, many people don't have those savings. So I feel like there's a societal kind of tsunami that is going to be happening, that's going to be changing the fabric of our society. Right. So that's why I feel like now is the time to address this, because these changes are going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years in a very drastic way. And I want to be a part of the solution.
So two things about your Silver Life Fund. One is, boy, right time, right place. And I'm sure just like everyone listening, we all want to know, what are those ideas you have for people aging in place to improve? We're excited to hear about that. And then also, like I was going to say, with your operation being so unique, what you shared with me is lots of times people have really great ideas, but they don't know how to execute them. Right. And that you've created this system where somebody has a really amazing game-changing idea. You can coordinate putting the operators with them that can help create that idea and then help get funding for it. And that's what I found really fascinating about what you're doing. One of the things I found fascinating.
Right. No, and there are so many white space opportunities when it comes to this space. And it's about taking those kernel of ideas, because there are so many great ideas out there, and being able to take the first step and then the next step and then the next step to execute. Like, execution is the toughest part. Starting is the toughest part. Finding the initial capital is the hardest part, and also finding the resources. And so that is what SilverLife is going to be doing. We are a venture studio. We are going to be coming up with diligenced ideas and working with people to do so, and then backing those ideas that have legs. So here's an area I'll share that we are looking at. So one of the areas that I'm personally quite excited about is the fact that so many people can work longer. And
Yeah.
so what could our economy do if we can keep people in the workplace for a few years longer, especially in today's world where there is a tremendous labor shortfall? And you have all of these experienced people, like the ones that you were pointing out before. If companies can entice people to stay, isn't that better for the companies themselves, and also like for the individuals too? One of the first business that we are looking at is tackling that situation head on.
And it's so interesting to me how you would utilize like software to perpetuate that. How
Mhm.
does that go together?
So on the software side, it is so much of this is about talent. How do you manage talent? How do you retain talent? But you can use technologies such as, AI and machine learning to help people catalog their skills much more effectively, help them find the right opportunities more effectively. That is what technology can enable, like a lot of this searching element and the matching element. So that is what this platform is going to be providing.
So more searching and then connecting them with the right fit for their
That's right.
skills. Uh-huh.
That's
At
right.
any age. I like that. One other
That's
one
right.
that you had mentioned to me when I asked you about this space was you mentioned a company called, I think it was Join Papa.
Yes. So
Yeah.
join Papa. So that is now a unicorn company. It started a few years ago, and you know, as we know, like with the population aging, people have two choices in terms of where do you age. You either age at home or you age in a facility, right?
Yeah.
And also just thinking about the help that you need. There is you can get medical help, because so say that you really need a lot more care, or you might just need day-to-day help around the house because you're far away from your family. So thinking about the pandemic, right, for
Yes.
instance, over the last couple of years, and how people who were older, of course, earlier on in the pandemic, before the vaccines came, they were the most vulnerable. And so Papa provides a way to find non-medical companions who can help you with tasks such as, let me help you get your groceries, let me help you with tech support, let me just be a companion to you. And they're now being distributed through all of these Medicare Advantage plans. And because it's actually been shown that this type of help and companionship is a true social determinant of health that could improve your health. And so it's a very exciting company. I've just been watching them from afar. And I got to meet one of the founders of the company recently. And they're so impact driven, and it stems from how the founders wanted to help their grandfather, so their papa. And it's very warming. If you go back to the story I was saying about Gooder, right? There are ways of providing social impact which are for profit, and Papa is another example of that.
I love that. I love that the younger generation are thinking about the older people and
Right.
creating these tech solutions for it. That's amazing. I love what you're doing with Silver Fund, Silver Life Fund. Um, it's such a necessary niche. I'm sure you're going to have some unicorns come out of that with your
I
track
hope
record.
so.
And
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what happens. Can people invest in your fund?
So they can definitely, yes, talk to me about investing. So it's a venture studio model. So it's a different flavor of a fund, or they can also invest directly in the companies that we are starting. You can find out more about what it is that we're doing at www.silverlife.co. So that's www.silverlife.co. So not com, but .co.
Right. .co. Okay, great. Can we follow you on social media?
Yes, you can follow me on LinkedIn and also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Vanessa W Liu.
Yes. So Vanessa Liu, it's Liu for those looking for Vanessa on LinkedIn, and who are not seeing the video, but just hearing us on the podcast. So I wanted to spell that for you. And it's called Silver Life. And again, it's .co. So for those interested in learning more about it, I think there's so many of my listeners that are interested in what's going to happen to aging in place and how technology is going to help with that. And I really appreciate you sharing your expertise. I really appreciate the work you're doing. And I'm going to keep following you, Vanessa, and see what amazing things you continue to do to impact the world in such a positive way. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Catherine. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. And everybody, we'll see you on social media as well. Remember to invest in her. Follow me, Catherine Gray, on LinkedIn, and of course, She Angel Investors on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Make it a great day, everybody, and invest in her. Take care. Remember, if you're looking to launch a business or grow your business, check out our e-course, 6 Ways to Fund Your Business, available at sheangelinvestors.com.
Our theme music was created and produced by Lindsay Tomasic.